the world you have a circuit like this. If you finish this race, you've really achieved something.
It's a matter of just keeping a constant pace.
All this traffic, is terrible. You have to adapt again.
The night for me is the most difficult part of the race.
It's tough, really tough.
Yes, the 24-hour race at the Nürburgring Nordschleife is certainly one of the world's largest motorsport events, with more than 200 cars and over 800 drivers regularly entered. The Endurance Classic has been staged on the Great Track in the Eifel Mountains since 1970. But in 2010, it looks to be one of the most competitive for years, with potential winners coming from the factory teams of Porsche, Audi and BMW. The uniqueness of the event is largely due to that circuit, with a lap length up to 26 kilometres depending on the configuration, and some very flexible regulations. Yes, the Nordschleife, the Green Hell, as it's sometimes called, is certainly world-renowned as the ultimate test for drivers and their machines. But since last year, there's a very new look to the Nürburgring. Yes, in 2007, the main stands and ancillary buildings were all torn down, exploded just like that. In their place, they started to build a huge new complex, a hotel, a casino, supermarkets. And now it's ready for the 24 hours. There's basically nothing like this anywhere else in the world. We have facilities complementing the motorsport, which of course has been going on here for 83 years, since 1927. The Nürburgring has basically been built up again from scratch, says Jörg Lindner. In the space of 2 years, a whole new complex was constructed in the area between the regional highway and the start-finish straight, including a multi-purpose arena, a congress centre, a theme park, pubs, restaurants and hotels. The heart of the new Nürburgring is undoubtedly the Ring Boulevard, with a range of shops and leisure outlets. And this was the baptism of fire for this complex with the 24 hours. Just look around and see what we have here. People are giving their approval with their feet. Personally, I've never seen the boulevard this full, apart from at the Formula One meeting last year. However, the new arrangements have meant change. The traditional Adenauer Racing Day has made its final bow. Instead, the stars of the 24-hour race turned out to sign autographs on the Ring Boulevard. I think it's great you can get so close to the drivers, and especially you have them sign your photos, which you've actually taken during practice. This is what makes the 24-hour race so special. It's about more than just watching the cars whoosh by from a distance. Meeting the drivers here, seeing them in the flesh before the start. It's a very fine thing, he says. The Brunchen section of the Nordschleife, a legendary meeting place for motorsport enthusiasts from all over the world. The best places here were taken a full week ago. A real sense of anticipation ahead of the 24 hours is certainly in the air. And they're sustained by the campfires, by the drink, the beer, the Eifel air and the breeze. Days ahead of the race, reporters started to crowd into the media centre. 1,000 journalists from all over the world filed non-stop reports from the Nürburgring. There are many opportunities and channels for fans at home to keep abreast with the latest developments. There's live streaming, where we give fans the chance to follow the entire race. There's also a new ticker, which you can leave running while you're working at your desk. We have the ticker up and running during practice, as well as the race, says Michael Kramp. However, there's plenty of work to do before the race actually starts. Work in the paddock, fixing it, fitting it, testing it, checking it, all in advance, of course. Audi busily setting up the event. And they had a special Audi hotspot at the Gottshaus. and that gave a spectacular view over the Flugplatz. And anyone who could confidently predict who would be the winner was certainly either confused or could be disappointed. No fewer than 38 drivers entertained realistic hopes of the overall win in 4 Porsches, 4 Audis and 2 BMWs, all of them factory cars. It was certainly the best entry for some years, and some very well-known drivers, quite a lot of them from the DTM in the Audi squad. Well, we've come here knowing we're amongst the favourites. Of course, we finished second last year with the R8. Favourites for the 24-hour race, I'd say, are BMW. I've known the Schnitzer guys for a long time. They know their way around here like no one else. And they've plenty of success all over the world. I think they're one of the strongest teams. Charlie Lamb here from Schnitzer. Well, I'd say the guy who won the race on the last 4 occasions. He's going to be the one to beat, and that, of course, was Olaf Manthe, who you just saw a minute ago. Manthe had Marcel Thiemann, Mark Lieb, Timo Bernhard and Romain Dumas amongst their factory-backed Porsche drivers. On the Porsche, car of choice this year was the GT3R, not the previously used RSR. We'll have to wait and see. We really can't make any predictions because it's just been half wet, half dry out there, which makes any kind of assessment really difficult. Incidentally, Manthe was also supervising a second car with a fully professional lineup, the Mamorel Racing GT3R, also a genuine contender. The 2 BMW M3 E92 entries were also not completely proven at the Nordschleife. They were basically using the GT2 racer used in the American Le Mans Series V8 engine, of course, in that M3. And remember, of course, BMW have been successful here in the recent past with V8-powered M3s and drivers like Pedro Lamy. We'll just do our best. We're more or less rookies here. BMW hasn't competed for a few years. We'll try and give a good account of ourselves and do a decent job. And we'll see where we end up. Audi was represented by 2 teams, Phoenix Racing and App Sportsline, each entering 2 R8 GTs. The driver lineup was on a par with BMW and Manthe, but in the light of the stiff competition, expectations were mixed. Reigning DTM champion Timo Scheider here. It'll be hard. It'll be a sprint, probably over the full 24 hours this year, but that's the Nordschleife for you. If you can keep going, you may end up winning. All 3 types of car ought to be capable of approximately the same speed, so battles for positions are guaranteed. At the end of the day, it may come down to whether you can get 8 or 9 laps from 1 tank of fuel. Yeah, that's exactly the question we're asking ourselves too, although we don't have a definitive answer. Based on our calculations so far, the Audis can go 9 laps, and probably the BMWs too. There's no carefully crafted strategy. Fill her up and drive her till she's empty. Well, I'm not sure I believe that. But maybe there's a special chance for the new Porsche Hybrid. It's a new concept, but this car is definitely capable of going 10 laps on 1 tank. But will the top speed be enough in race trim? Drivers Jörg Burmeister, Richard Leitz, Marco Holzer and Marcus Ranking are driving that car. And the hybrid technology, of course, comes from the Williams F1 team. Tyres also another vital factor. I think the teams all have the same problem this week. We're simply not getting enough temperature into our tyres. We can play around with the pressures to a certain extent, but the tyres are quite simply too cold, or it's taking relatively too long to get the best out of them. The performance of each single tyre is meticulously analysed. The experience we gather at the 24-hour race and in motorsport in general obviously makes its way back into our production tyres, and we'll present our entire range at the Tyre Trade Fair in Essen. The tyre is one of the crucial factors in the toughest endurance race in the world. And with changing weather conditions, well, there was a quandary on which rubber to run on. Practice had been run on rather damp conditions, and then it was off in that quest for a good qualifying position and a great start near the front. The Manthey Porsche, driven by Mark Lieb, was the fastest early on. No one else was close. The BMWs were never quite coming to terms with their rivals, actually qualifying 8th and 11th. But the Phoenix and Abt Audis turned in some superb times in the final few minutes. At the end, the front two rows of the grid were an all-Audi affair, and Marco Werner, former Le Mans winner, set the fastest time of the day. And there he is, beating on the roof. Yes, it was a great lap. I only had problems with traffic twice at Arenberg and at the Foxhole, but otherwise I was on the limit the whole lap. I sweated the same as if it was 2 laps. Elsewhere, it was a case of no sweat. Olaf Manthey remained relaxed about his competitor's performance. Just a single flying lap and still enough for 7th, acceptable for last year's winners. We didn't want to do anything special to chase for very fast times. Obviously, I wasn't expecting the Audis to go quite as quick as that, and I might have thought about pushing the boys a bit harder. But I'd rather keep the kilometres in reserve, make it safely to the finish, and not clock up too many kilometres in advance. So there, the top 8 times. 4 Audis, then the factory Porsches, and then the best of the BMWs. Plenty of interesting stories here, some special promotions going on. There was a group of drivers who'd won their race in a competition on television. They were driving Opels. And there was also a mini electric car, and that was driven by, amongst others, Prince Leopold of Bavaria.
The idea was to find out what we can do with a normal Mini. We have an Oxford and London running, and this Mini E-Race is almost the same Mini we have on the road.
The Mini E-Race is a modified race version of the production Mini E. To guarantee top performance and safety on the racetrack, it has a special lightweight body and roll cage. Certain components, such as the suspension, brakes and tyres, are also motorsport variants. Otherwise, the car is almost exclusively based on production technology, using the Mini E power plant, a 150 kilowatt electric motor, fueled by 5,088 lithium battery cells. And there is the electric car going around the famous carousel.
I had really fun because no earplugs in the ear. You could hear the noise of the suspension of the car, and that was very amazing.
And now time to get serious. Sunshine and temperatures around 10 degrees meant good conditions for the start of the 38th running of the ADAC 24-hour Nürburgring race. In 2010, there were 197 cars on the grid. And there, driving the number 25 car, a man who's seen victory here several times before, Pedro Lamy.
These are very fast, so we will see how it's going to be at the beginning, and the rhythm they can have, and hopefully we can keep them pace and stay together for the beginning of the race. But hopefully we don't have major problems, and if you don't have major problems, I'm sure you're going to finish well.
The Audi lineup well included drivers like their DTM stars such as Matthias Ekstrom, Oliver Jarvis, Timo Scheider. They had old stagers like Hans-Joachim Stuck, who's won this race many years ago, Frank Bieler, and absolutely superb driver lineup all round. Timo Scheider there talking to Marco Werner. Pole is one thing and the race is something else. The fact is there are perhaps 10 to 15 cars capable of winning this race. We're delighted about yesterday's pole position achievement, but this is a very long 24 hours that's going to be ahead of us. We need good tactics, good strategy, and a car that simply does exactly what you want it to. Manthey Racing had much to ponder. The balance of performance prior to the 24-hour race had imposed an additional 25 kilos handicap on their GT3, and they weren't happy. I don't think we can relax in the light of this competitive field. We'll definitely try and get ahead at the start and give it everything we've got. Just like last year, our rivals are just very good. We've simply got to get to the front very quickly, because that will definitely be a sprint. And I'm assuming it'll be a long race this year. And the pit gossip was that he'd bolted on some soft tyres for the start of the race. Start of the formation lap now, and as tradition, cars covering virtually the entire circuit for 20 minutes before the actual start. And they're wildly cheered on by an extraordinary crowd of over 220,000 passionate fans who've flocked here to the Nordschleife. And they're getting a particularly good view. So there you see the fans on the warm-up lap. They're allowed over the barriers, and of course, as ever, all kinds of signs and messages painted on the racetrack. On board here with Manthey Racing in the number 9 car. Try and time the start for just about 3 p.m. Some good vantage positions there, and the pace car peels off. And into the lead, of course, the Audis, but look at the yellow and green Porsche. Marcel Thiemann is starting the race. And as we said, the car running on quite soft tyres with some kind of instructions to really go for it. And there he dives down the inside, already up into 5th place. And we're still on the Grand Prix circuit here at the Nürburgring. They haven't dived down yet into the forest, onto the traditional full Nordschleife. Timo Scheider, I think, making the best start. There will be a second and then third wave of cars starting, but this is the top group. And look at Thiemann here into 2nd place, absolutely flying. Go on board now in the number 1 car, battling for the lead. Early on, wants to lead this first lap. Well, the Audi's trying hard, but just look at that. Into the lead, just as they start to head down towards the old Nordschleife section. And it's Audi R8s, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. One of these Audis won the German GT Championship last year. And there is that Porsche really pushing hard. BMWs at the moment biding their time. And this is what Marcel Thiemann said a little later. Olaf Manthey and Roland Cruz told me to get to the front right away, so that's what I did. I really went very well. I made a good start, and I think my tyres were warmed up well. You could see the Audis were struggling on their tyres in the first 20 or so bends, and they weren't coming up to temperature, so that was a huge advantage to me, and I made up lots of meters on the Grand Prix circuit. Here's the start of the second group. And some very interesting cars in this, including some special Audi TTs, and also the Volkswagens running with compressed natural gas and driven by the likes of Nasser Al-Attiyah, the Dakar winner in the past. And well, we're on board with the Opel Racecam Astra, and the drivers of this, 2 separate cars, 2 groups of 4, they were picked out of 22,000 applications and run through a sort of talent competition on German television. 141 driven by Sebastian Amos, René Hiddel, Thierry Klitschmann and Dennis Rieger. So well done to them. Let's hope they can keep it all together. But a very interesting scheme which worked very well. Look at this typical Nürburgring shot. This is the Döttinger. Thiemann leading from Schneider, Arnold in the Porsche, and Lohr, and it's Stippler, Mamero, and the best of the BMWs being driven by Jörg Müller. But those green and yellow colours so familiar at the front at the Nürburgring 24 hours. That's Harry Unflath, the Team Alps Sportsline Marketing Director. Here's the Hankook Team Farnbacher Ferrari. It went quickly in practice, but then had a problem in qualifying, being driven by Dominic Farnbacher, the Dane, Alan Simonson, Lee Keane from America, normally races in Porsches, and local man Marco Seafield, and they were working up through the field. Bit of a dodgy moment there for an Audi. Oh, that damaged car had lost some coolant. Let's hear about it from Timo Scheider. They were waving yellow and oil flags on the entrance to the last chicane. Everything was okay. We came off the throttle, but then there was liquid all over the track and very nearly crashed. Thankfully, just before hitting the barrier, I recovered grip and got back on the track. I only just made it. I have to say I was lucky. By contrast, BMW were out of luck. Car number 26, driven by Dirk Werner, Dirk Adolf, Dirk Muller and Andy Prio. They dropped off the pace early on. And then here in the Arenberg section, they crashed with Werner at the wheel. He'd limped the car back to the pits. It was a pretty hefty shunt, says Dirk Werner. The front left suspension is broken. I'm not sure whether the rear suspension is broken as well. And we're also changing the radiator, the whole front end. I'm really, really sorry because obviously I had no chance in the race now. There's definitely no way we can come back and win from here. However, car number 1, that's it going through your picture, had a very good chance of winning, and the lead continued to grow. Then it was the Audi 98 from the Audi 100, then the number 2 car. Porsches and Audis up front at the moment. Here's that hybrid Porsche, which can do 10 laps, we're told. Here it comes in. Actually, it came in after just 5 laps. Part of their strategy. Oh, get out of the way. Our car is going back in the race. So playing something of a waiting game. This is a car we've seen in the last couple of years, the Lexus LFA car from Gazoo Racing Team, and with some well-known drivers, including Armin Hahne and the German Andre Lotterer, who races mainly in Japan. It also had a second car driven by Tatsuyuki Kinoshita, Akira Ida, Yushi Wakasawa and Kazuya Oshima. Also Tiemann Mark Lieb, Timo Bernhard and Romain Dumas. What a lineup, sharing that car in the lead at the moment, the number 1. An all Audi battle going on for P2. The 100 car, Frank Stippler ahead of Timo Scheider here. Back on board then, the 100 car, as a bit of battle side by side, the 2 Audis. Phoenix Racing Team prepare their cars literally across the road from the Nürburgring in the big industrial estate there. Lots of other smaller production cars, mainly driven by amateurs, and often they can get in the way. They can change the whole course of the race on occasion. BMW were on board, I think, there with Augustus Farfus, playing a waiting game.
We would need to be a little bit quicker, but we have to do what the track and what the car tires allow us, and we are trying to make it work. We're still learning. I mean, it's the first 24 hours for our brand new M3. The car showed that it's born with a great base.
First of the favourites out of the race, the Mamral Porsche with Chris Mamral, Wolf Hensler and Jörg Hart forced to park up earlier than expected. Obviously, Peter Mamreau very disappointed by this. There's the number 12 car, still steaming. And now being towed back to the pits. Let's hear what Peter Mamreau has had to say about all this. Unbelievable. We'd prepared incredibly well, but things have happened which we could never have anticipated. We were basically on the pace. We showed we were capable of keeping up in qualifying and in the race. But after a few minor technical problems, something gave up completely and we can't go on. Of course, it's clearly something major on the technical side. It's a big, big shame. Cologne Technical University entered a Ford Focus RS, and amongst the drivers, Jari-Matti Latvala, the freshly crowned New Zealand rally winner. Quite a hard challenge for him. We've had rally drivers in this race in the past. I remember Chris Atkinson racing a Subaru here about 5 years ago. Here is that Ford Focus. And here is Jari-Matti Latvala.
It is a big challenge, but I like challenges, and it's good for me for the future in tarmac rallies in the WRC Championship.
Car number 98 comes in. Mark Basseng climbs out. Hans-Joachim Stuck will climb in. Amazingly, Hans-Joachim Stuck first took part in this race in 1970, and he won it. Also in the pits at the same time, the Lucas Luhr and Christian Abt Audi in second and third places, those two cars. I took it reasonably easy in the first stint, but then I had a minor problem within the team, by which I mean within the Audi family. Of course, there are a couple of lads out there who simply aren't moving over. It's a fight to get three of them, and we lost a bit of time, but, well, it went very well after that. I think we're in position 2. The field behind Manthey is, how shall I put it, tightly bunched. Fundamentally, it's not good to get into infighting so early in the race. I've just had a tricky moment on my in-lap where a BMW pushed me onto the grass. A couple of scratches, but nothing worse. But it shows how fast we're going, says Mark Basseng. Pit stop for Manthey Racing, in the lead still. Thiemann going back in the car, taking over from Timo Bernhard. Up to now, the car's going really well. The Manthey Porsche GT3R, well, I think we've increased the lead by 10 to 15 seconds. It's really okay, but I have to tell you, it wasn't easy. Very slippery off the ideal line. The Haribo Licorice Porsche car in 8th place. So the race wore on, and slowly but surely the darkness was starting to fall over the Eifel Mountains. This always a very important part of the race. Would the man who was leading as it went dark still be leading when the sun came up in the morning? Suddenly, frenetic conversations amongst the 98 Audi drivers. Frank Stippler, Stuck, Rockenfeller on the right, and problems there. Dr. Wolfgang Ulrich looking on. Apparently Mark Basseng was limping his car back from Döttinger. More conversations there. Stuck with the beanie hat on. And there the Audi stranded out on the circuit. Obviously very upset, and this is what Dr. Ulrich said. Well, Mark came up behind a car which he was overtaking, and the guy put his indicator on. He was about to pass in a normal place when the indicator came on, and then the car lynched to the opposite side, and Mark simply ran out of road trying to avoid him. He tried to avoid the crash and hit the curb hard in the centre of the car, breaking the water pump and 2 oil lines under the car. He's lost water and oil. Obviously, he can't go on.
Hat dann Wasser und Öl verloren, und dann ging es natürlich nicht mehr weiter.
Leading Manthey Porsche also suffered a similar fate. Porsche personnel there finding more information out. Mark Lieb was sitting with the car, and he's told us a Golf came off the track and then bounced back onto it, hitting our left front and then the rear. Have to see if we can get the car back here and maybe get it repaired, but we'll just have to wait and see. But the car was too badly damaged for repairs, and, well, the champions were out of the race. Team App Sportsline reviewing and re-reviewing the onboard footage of the accident which ended their hopes. And Audi 100 had been back in the team tent for a long time. The damage too heavy for a trackside repair. You can't repair every car. I think it's hardly worth it when you're 3 hours behind. It's too much of a risk. It's a great shame. We came here looking to win and not pick up the booby prize. But that's what it looks like at the moment. So Manthey crunches on a banana. Talking to a German journalist there. We're definitely disappointed, says Mark. Can't stop thinking to yourself, maybe I should have passed on the left or stayed in the middle or accelerated and maybe I got past him quicker. These are the thoughts that go through your head. It's a massive disappointment as the car was terrific and we're in great shape. What a shame. Benefiting from those two retirements was the Phoenix Audi R8 car number 99, which was now in the lead. It was just a few seconds clear of the Porsche Hybrid number 9. For almost an hour, the cars had raced through the night just a few seconds apart. Amongst the drivers in the Porsche, Pierre Caffer, who used to, of course, be a factory Audi driver. Yes, it was bumper to bumper. Whenever you managed to open up a small gap in traffic, you ran up against more traffic at a point on the circuit where you couldn't use speed to get past. And the guy chasing you is right up behind you again. You can't really surge clear in the dark. It's especially difficult to overtake this year because it's curious. So many cars are sticking to the middle of the track, neither left or right. I've not noticed it in previous years. Should you pass on the left? Should you pass on the right? That's the question you have to ask yourself every time, and I have to be honest about this, there's an element of luck involved. The race approached the halfway point and Team BMW began closing up on the podium places. Number 25 was up to second place at one stage, and of course the Schnitzler team have such huge experience at 24-hour races. Close to halfway, fourth place in the middle of the night. Are you happy? More or less. The problem was that we couldn't keep up with the Porsches and Audis at first. So obviously our strategy was just to keep going, make sure nothing got broken and drive as smooth a race as possible. We had a problem with the radiator. A piece of wood flew into the rad. We had to change it. But otherwise, there's only one plan. Keep going, keep a reasonable, clean speed, and, of course, avoid those errors. BMW within a striking distance of a podium on a genuinely exciting night of racing. Until 6 in the morning, the hybrid Porsche and the two Audi R8s were on the same lap, covered by just 2 minutes at a time. Well, the gateway to hell is, some people say, in the Eifel Mountains. And flames were rising into the night. For some, the 24-hour race is more about the party. The best thing is the atmosphere, the people, the race, the smell of the petrol in the air. Drink till you drop, yes. We're all friends here. Everyone's totally relaxed. It's just so cool. Fantastic music, cars, and great people. Well, I think they're all coming back next year. That's what he said anyway. Partying or relaxation, plenty of opportunities for all. But for the drivers, of course, they were battling through the green hell. And a few jokers out there.
Rennstrecke gewesen und sonst wieder hier am Campingplatz aufwärmen und dann gleich geht's wieder los auf die Rennstrecke.
Well, I don't think he's been on the beer. We'll definitely be back next year, he says. It's just great here.
Nächstes Jahr sind wir auf jeden Fall wieder dabei.
And he says the same thing, basically. He has been on the beer. So warming by the campfire. Not sure about the musical activities, though. Bet they don't know who's leading. Well, the answer to that was actually the Audi car number 99. She's trying to pay attention. In second place, the hybrid Porsche, just 2 minutes behind. Well, in recent years, sometimes the Nürburgring 24s have had to be stopped in the night due to mist problems. Was a little bit of mist this year, but not too bad. Certainly not enough to even bring out a safety car. So that was certainly very good news indeed. There's the leading 99 Audi. Marcel Fassler, former Mercedes-Benz driver, doing a great stint in that car. On board with the number 9 hybrid Porsche. Here the black and yellow number 2 car. Christian Abt amongst the drivers, together with Lucas Law, Christopher Mies.
We
have to keep playing it safe at all times. Of course, we've seen our sister car suffer a few problems. We're going to perform a few routine checks right now. We can't just go out and reel in the hybrid in front of us. When you include those stops in the equation, we have to pit more often than them, so we'll concentrate on coming home second. Yes, second, Abt had inherited second place because the third Audi R8, that 99 car, had just been retired. We're obviously very disappointed. We took the lead overnight and we basically defended it. We even pulled away a little, so you do start to think about that victory. I think we all put in super stints, all top-notch stuff. It was a terrific fight for the lead with the Porsche and also with the Abt Audi. So obviously we're very, very disappointed with what happened. Suddenly, BMW up to third and closing in, and quietly, stealthily and with no fuss, the Farnbacher Ferrari had sneaked up to fourth place. It's the first Ferrari which has ever been entered in this Nürburgring 24 hours. There's that BMW developed for the American Le Mans Series, and indeed will be racing at Le Mans this year. So this very good practice for that event. The Haribo Porsche had some fairly major technical problems in the night, was now down in 45th place, but making up lots of slots. The Porsche RS project car was having a decent race. It had been driven to the circuit on the road, was street legal. And the drivers, Roland Ash, Patrick Seymour, the British journalist Chris Harris, and Horst von Sauermer, the drivers, and they were up to a sensational 13th place. Remember, this is a car which is totally road going. Another interesting Porsche, the hybrid car, which had been battling for the lead. Here we go on board with it. The driver lineup, a mixture of established Porsche talent like Jörg Bergmeister and 3 of their young chargers, Richard Lietz, Marco Holzer and Martin Raginger. Just 4.5 hours from the finish, and the Abt Audi had run into trouble and retired. There's Christian Abt, very upset. problems with an engine mount. Everyone shaking their head in disbelief. Yeah, we've had a few problems. I don't think we need to make any secret of that. We need to work and improve. I don't think we were absolutely 100% ready, because these things don't happen if you are. We'll go home now, we'll do our homework, and I hope we can come back and win this race next year. So, only one competitive Audi left, the number 97 car, driven by Mark Bronzel, Luca Ludwig, the son of Klaus, Dennis Rostek and Marcus Winkelhock in 4th place at this point. This BMW number 25 was now up to a 2nd position. The top 5 also included another BMW and something of a surprise, the Z4 GT3 driven by Marco Hartung, Patrick Söderlund, Edward Sandstrom and Martin Olin. They were in 5th slot. And the CNG VW Sirocco was going very well indeed. Middle East rally champion Nasser Al-Attiyah doing a good job together with Dieter Depping, another rally driver, Jackie Ickx's daughter Vanida Ickx and the veteran Klaus Niedwitz. The car would finish 16th overall and win the class for alternatively fueled cars. Here we're on board with the Sirocco. Volkswagen, of course, have a new Sirocco Cup this year, and indeed they also run this special fuel. You can find out the thoughts now of the rally star Nasser Al-Attiyah, also has been the production world rally champion in the past.
It's okay, I finished 7th lap, no problems, everything good, and I am really happy, and just waiting again. I want to drive, you know, continue. It's really excited.
Regulars in the 24-hour race, the Kisling Opel Astra GTC with brothers Heinz Otto and Jürgen Fietscher, and Finnish driver Harry Lusterinen and Julius Nieminen. The number of factory teams at the head of the field changes every year, but I have to say they're driving fairly. It was unusual how many accidents there were and retirements before the nightfall, I have to say that. The favourites kept on dropping out like flies. Just 2 hours to go, and sensation, the Porsche Hybrid being parked up. Now we can look down on the car. Concerned faces in the pits. A very interesting new project, but ultimately ending in this huge disappointment. And we can hear from the driver there, Jörg Bergmeister, what the problem is.
There was an engine problem. We have to analyze it, what exactly happened. But I think in general it was a great effort. The engineers did a great job, and I think they have enough data to develop the program even further.
So the retirement meant that BMW number 25 was in the lead, and BMW 26, with amongst the drivers World Touring Car champion Andy Priaulx, had moved way back into the top 10. BMW may not have been the fastest, but the car certainly had the reliability. Another pit stop for the BMs, and we can hear now from Andy Priaulx about their race.
A remarkable achievement if we can finish this race. It's our first 24-hour race with the car, and if we can finish it, and if we can finish it on the podium, we'll be extremely happy.
The Japanese Falken Motorsport team, regular visitors to the 24 hours for many years now, we're also running the top 10. A bit low on power, but very economical. The drivers, Dirk Schroisman, Tetsuya Tanaka, Kazuki Hoshino, a veteran Japanese driver, and Peter Dumbreck.
Last year we finished 11th, so hopefully we're going to get the top 10 finish, but which is quite tough, but yeah, just go for it, yeah.
But the real sensation of the race was the Farnbacher Ferrari, now up to second place. This car also in ALMS type specification. And there, Alan Simonson in particular doing a great job in that car. Man who races a great deal in Australia these days. In third and enjoying a problem-free race. In contrast to its sister cars, the private, non-works backed Phoenix Audi, car number 97. What about the special Lexus cars from Gazoo Racing? Well, they'd had various problems, but the 50 car was running in 18th place overall. Special private, but Lexus assisted project this. And we can hear a little bit more about it from the driver, Akira Iida.
Course is nice, and so many fantastic people. I like it in a Nürburgring.
Well, short and sweet from him. The Opel Race Camp car 142, driven by Hendrik Schraff, Jean-Marie Rascher, Arnie Hofmeister and Roger Bühler also made it to the finish. Absolutely fantastic 19th place overall. A brilliant result for amateur drivers who'd come through to this race drive through that TV selection process. There's their Opel going through. And here the Z4 in fourth place. Marco Hartung, the Swede Patrick Söderlund, the Swiss driver Edward Sandstrom and Martin Olin, also from Sweden. And they were in front of the Black Falcon private Audi, driven by Krista Johns. Sean Paul Breslin, the Irish driver, who races mainly in the German Seat Leon Cup. Young Johannes Stuck and Kenneth Heyer, son of Hans Heyer, they were in fifth place.
Our lineup is just one of the guys that have done 24 hours before. I have done one VLN race, Martin Olin have done 3, I think, and Patrick have done 2. So it's quite a good job from us. And
with the finish almost in sight, there was a scary moment for BMW. The gearbox was playing up and the team were uncertain whether the car would actually make it to the line. Apparently fourth gear had gone away. But at exactly 3 o'clock on Sunday, the M3 GT2 crossed the line in the lead to win the 24 hours of the Nürburgring. BMW taking the victory for the 19th time. The drivers, of course, Jörg Müller, Augusto Farfus, Uri Alsen and Pedro Lamy. Excellent result for BMW. They didn't really start the favourites. Lots of congratulations. There's that engineer we often see with that Japanese headband. And everyone's celebrating. Good result, of course, for the BMW boss, Dr. Mario Tyson. Now without a Formula One programme, but continuing to mastermind the BMW racing programme. More cheers. And this event is so big in German motorsport. Let's hear now from Dr. Tyson. There aren't many moments like this in motorsport. It reminds me most of Le Mans in 1999, when we also, of course, won the race. But I've never experienced anything as nerve-wrenching as this. It was really very tense. We started having problems at midday. Fortunately, no one noticed. We lost a gear in the winning car. And about 1:15, there's hardly any gears left in the box. Somehow we managed to keep up the lap times. Somehow we managed to finish. I have to say, it's a mystery to me how we did it. Ludwig, Bronzel, Rostek and Winkelhock finishing third. Behind the Ferrari, driven by Simonson, Farnbacher, Lee Keen and Seefried. Absolutely sensational second.
I'm very happy. very happy on behalf of the team, very happy on behalf of myself and my teammates. You know, it's a great achievement to come here for the first time and finish on the podium and then second place. It's a very, very happy feeling.
Disappointment, of course, for Audi, third overall, but they did win the SP9 category. And to hear more about that, we can hear from Luca Ludwig. Well, as a kid, I stood at trackside and cheered on my father, who last drove here in 2007. He won this race 3 times and all, and now here I am on the podium. Came here actually last year, but I didn't go through qualifying. I'd never driven at night, so I've experienced all this for the first time. And basically come through it well. I'm unbelievably grateful to Ernst Moser and Dirk Thiemann, who put their faith in me and told me I could do it. I'm incredibly well looked after by Phoenix Racing. It's a superb team and definitely the secret of this success. BMW on top of the podium, and one man made history too. The Portuguese, Pedro Lamy, won this race for a 5th time.
Maybe my most difficult race at the end, because we had a problem with the gearbox. So we knew that, and we want just to bring the car home, but it was very difficult. So we lost 1 gear, and the gearbox was doing noise. So it was not a victory here in Nürburgring. Nordschleife is great for me.
Yeah, the champagne sprays, and of course he draws level with Marcel Thiemann, who has also won this race 5 times. Check out those final standings: BMW, Ferrari, Audi. Nobody could have predicted that. Then the Z4 BMW, then another private Audi looking down through the 16th position of that Volkswagen, having a great result, and very many happy fans. And this race had seen many twists and turns, accidents and mechanical carnage. But the 38th running of the Nürburgring 24 Hours had certainly proved to be a classic. Until the next time, this is Andrew Marriott from the Nürburgring.